Hey Sam, thanks for coming onto Social Dream Machine. You had shared actually a thread with me, which was pretty cool. It looked like you had a fun creator trip with some people like Dan Ferrari, which is a world-class copywriter, and he gave you some advice. You had also not had been on LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, on socials for I guess about a year at that time. So, can you tell me about that experience?
Yeah, so long story short, I've been in this game for like a decade. I started off as a YouTuber. I dropped out of college. I spent a little bit of money. I had to go buy a camera, open up a YouTube channel, and I bought a domain called samsdoingwhat.com. The whole point was to document my journey that you didn't need to have a degree to be successful. And my friends would find out and be like Sam's doing what? And I did that for a long time. After 5 years, I had 500 subscribers. It was demoralizing. And during that time, this is where it brings us to the story. I got an in house job at a company called Mind Valley. They're a huge personal development marketing company. They were in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So I booked a one-way plane ticket from USA to Malaysia to go work there for 2.5 years. And that's when I fell in love with marketing. So I've just been doing that for a long time. And I got to a point where instead of helping other people with their marketing and getting hired to do it, I would actually go partner with creators on an equity level and help them from the ground up and actually be involved from a business level, not just some person underneath who's getting paid, a little paycheck. And so I was doing that, and man, it was a roller coaster. Many wins, many losses, and the losses hurt. So around this time, I was just recovering from what was a big win that turned into a big loss. And I met up with Dan Ferrari and this group of marketers in a little beach town called Sayulita, and I was telling him about my plan for the next one. And he's like, Sam, don't do it. That's a bad idea. You have a problem, not with marketing, not with business, but with the people you choose to partner with. In fact, you can touch up your marketing skills just a little bit more as well and take it to the top. So I recommend you go find the biggest, baddest direct response marketer you can and go work in house with them. That's exactly what I did. So I dropped posting on Twitter, which became X, and I just head down was working with some of the smartest marketers in the world for like a year. And it wasn't until literally 7 days ago, last Friday was my last day. And I decided to take a leap to do my own thing, which I could talk about that. But man, the things I learned in that company, I won't go too deep into detail of specifics, but they're a multi-figure company. And yeah, like I'm just taking a lot of what I've learned back into the creator space. I'm a little bit wiser now and ready to go.
Yeah, no, I want to actually talk about the Patty Galloway thing too because it's interesting. He's been coming up quite a bit in my feed, and he's obviously a very smart. For those that don't know who Patty Galloway is, can you explain who Patty is?
Yeah. So the reason why I went head down with that company and then left a year later is because the founder, bless him, he's the best person I've worked with. He knew I was entrepreneurial, and if you're trying to scale a company, you usually don't hire entrepreneurial types. And so we gave it a shot. We're just like, hey, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. If you ever end up leaving, it's totally fine. And during that time, towards the end of it, very recently, uh, I just started realizing I have a passion to create. I have a passion to go have my own thing, and I've always had this passion for YouTube, and I never I never let it out because I have this thing right here, right? A lot of people don't know this, but I grew a channel from 0 to 100K subscribers in 60 days in the Spanish market, and it just unlocked a lot of passion and excitement for me. Anyways, I saw this guy, Patty Galloway. He's one of the top YouTube strategists in the world. He's got a YouTube channel with like 500K subscribers, very popular over on Twitter as well. And he put out a post saying he's hiring a senior strategist. I didn't care. This is the first time I'm saying this publicly. I didn't really care to actually work there. I just wanted to see if I was good at YouTube and have some, the source of YouTube to validate how good I am at it by seeing how far I can make it into this application process. And so I applied, and within a couple weeks, I about 500 people had applied also, some of the top guys in the game. Only 5 people made it to the final round, and I was one of the 5. Now, I didn't get hired, but that was the thing that kind of snapped in me and is like, man, I have this talent. I should go all in because I haven't before. And so that's where it led me to today is like, I know I can do YouTube. I know I can do marketing. And there's, what I notice is a lot of YouTubers don't know marketing and a lot of marketers don't know YouTube. I can find this little sweet spot, which is just brilliant positioning. And that's where we are today.
What about like people that don't know the whole YouTube world as well as you do and that haven't had that type of success, obviously? So could you still make money? I've actually been watching some smaller channels And I've seen some people like Jay Klaus interview people and say that like it's possible to have like a small channel but still make money. And I'm curious, like how many like people or subscribers do you think you would actually need to actually make money in YouTube, or is or is it just like the thousand kind of the Kevin Kelly thing where it's like a thousand true fans type of thing? Like how do you look at it? Like in like what do you need in order to do it? And like how do you is it about like I know there's a lot here. Is it like the title, the thumbnail, like the idea? Like there's a lot there. So
To start in reverse, because as a entrepreneurial kind of marketing thinking, I always start with the end in mind, which usually is a point of sale, which is what are we selling. And so most of YouTube has, a lot of people on YouTube today is dominated by getting paid in AdSense, which is if you grow your channel big enough, you can start to get paid per 1,000 views that you get on your videos. And the amount you get paid depends on who is watching those videos, which is, let's just call it the niche or the audience. Certain audiences just have more money in their pockets than others. For example, an audience around how to, eat a high protein diet on a budget, that's an audience that doesn't have a lot of money. Whereas an audience where it's like founders and SaaS founders and tech founders or high level B2B marketing people, they have big budgets. So the more valuable the audience, the more you get paid. So that's number one. A lot of YouTube strategies like just go find a niche where there's a high value audience and go create content there. Well, what if you don't want to just go to a random niche, but you actually have a business? This is the stuff I focus on the most, which is if you have an offer to sell, whether it's a $5 product or a $100,000 consulting program. Um, my favorite thing is plugging YouTube onto the front of that offer structure and then using YouTube to generate traffic to then get sales for it, because it's some of the highest quality traffic out of any social platform. I would argue it's not even a social media platform. It's much different than everything else. Hence why I think it's better than everything else. So I always focus on if you can start making sales instantly if you have an offer. Everyone is like, YouTube takes a long time. That's a great mindset to have, but what do you mean it takes a long time? A lot of people just want to go, build their business and make some money and do that. If that's the case, it doesn't have to take a long time.
so what is some of the keys to growth in YouTube? Is it still like the idea is probably one of the more important things I would imagine for like the episode? Because I do see a lot of people that just sort of wing it and don't really have like they just sort of say like whatever, let's just see what happens or whatever. And it seems like if a little bit of thought ahead of time is probably key. Is that kind of part of it?
Just go start posting, go post 50 videos, and then let's talk about what kind of like, let's dial in the strategy a little bit more. What people need to understand is strategy is actually the easy part. Strategy only takes up a very minute part of the conversation in the brain bandwidth and the amount of hours you spend on it. You can figure out your strategy in like a couple days. The key is the execution of that thing. So I always recommend no, go find your strategy and then go post your 50 videos, because you're going to have much more leverage. It's one of my favorite quotes, which is the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But what if you're stepping in the wrong direction? That's what most people are doing with YouTube. So strategy all comes down to what Mr. Beast will call, you just got to make a damn good video, right? So, boring, unsexy. What's next? Okay, I'll tell you what's next. Outside of making a great video, which is usually based on a supply demand curve, which is there's a demand for something and no one's supplying it with their video content. What you're trying to do as a strategist is identify what that supply demand is and know where the supply is high and where the demand is low. Avoid that and find the high demand and the low supply. The issue is they're not going to tell you this stuff. You can't go look in the comments and find people tell you, oh, I want this type of video or whatever, whatever. You usually have to read between the lines. And that's what makes the strategy part a little bit difficult. So, once you can find that, it's about how can you position yourself into that area of demand with your unique positioning. Positioning is everything. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, because after the year with these some of the best marketers in the world, the number one thing we talked about was positioning. How do we stand out? How do we make this different? That really sticks with you when you hear these guys make this much money, talk about that all day. So now I've forgotten everything else. I'm like, this is all I focus on. And it just happens to apply directly to YouTube. Positioning doesn't have to be radically different. You don't need to be an 8-figure entrepreneur or super jacked with fitness or any of these kind of extreme end of the spectrum type of people in your industry. You just have to have something that's just a little bit different, a little, a tiny bit difference, and that can work for YouTube. That needs to be apparent in the title and the thumbnail, which is the only thing that determines if a video gets clicked. And then the rest of it just determines how good you are at being an expert, right? I'm not going to talk about the 30-second hook rate or whatever, like storytelling techniques. Just if you're really good and you can display that in video, people are going to notice. YouTube's going to like that, and they're going to show your video to more people. If the thumbnail and the title are positioned properly, you'll get clicks.
It seems too that, like, to some sort of degree, like the viewer is looking for a payoff at every kind of so often point, right? Like you're trying to constantly give them enough to keep going, but then also like some sort of thing to keep them to the end, right? So is there a way? I know that if you look at most retention graphs, it kind of has this like curve that kind of just drops off like right away. So I'm also wondering, like, it seems like what's the point of even having like a trailer if it's only kind of more for like the creator, right? So I'm actually starting to experiment with like just removing it completely and only having it at the end as part of like, because at the end of the day, like people don't they probably just want you to get right to the point, right? And is that, and then how do you, I guess, what are some ideas or strategies too for keeping people around like to the end?
You're just getting straight into the good stuff, Jeremy. I love it. So, a lot of what I've learned is not from where most YouTube strategists learn it. Because again, I don't come from the YouTube strategy background. I come from the direct response marketing background. I come from the guys who hang out in the underbellies of this world and are just obsessed with human nature on such a level where they can write video scripts, right? Ad scripts, whether it's run on YouTube or Meta platform or any platform, and they can generate millions of dollars a month. And that's the difference. Is like YouTube is about getting the view and holding attention. Where I come from is about getting the view, holding attention, and then getting the sale at the end, which adds so much more constraint, makes it way harder, but the principles are all the same. So, what we focus on in terms of this retention idea is what we call the big idea, right? The big idea spans a little bit more than just a hook. Everyone talks about the hook and they usually think of it as like a sentence thing, and it's kind of this fancy wordplay. But a big idea is something that goes beyond that. And it's kind of this like deep emotional hook, which ties back to this whole supply demand thing, which is you're just saying a statement, or you're taking an ordinary idea and you're expanding it just a little bit to make it sound extraordinary. And what you're trying to do is pierce the heart, the bullseye of the demand of a certain market. And the quality of that big idea, how much it hooks that audience, is also going to be dependent on who else is using similar hooks. This is the supply. So you can have a very simple idea of a video if no one else is doing it, and you're going to have a strong retention without needing to focus on all of these, like every 7 seconds you need to have a cut, or every whatever you need to like do this or do this sound thing or zoom in, right? All of that stuff is tactical. I don't really care about that stuff because it doesn't matter if you get some of the deeper principles correct. There are videos out there that like don't do any. There's a thing that's going around, which is like the slow edit. Like, I'm not going to edit my videos. I'm going to make it real, raw, and authentic. Like, well, that kind of goes against the whole thing where it's like you need to have these retention edits and whatnot. And it's like, well, what's the difference then? It can't be the edit. It can't be that. It must be something deeper. So that deeper thing is what pulls people through without needing to focus on these tactical elements throughout the video itself.
What about like the thumbnail? Does it need to be custom, or could you have like a good thumbnail that's a template? Like, because it seems like some people, like from a marketing perspective, like the cohesive branding of having the thing look the same every time, almost like a baseball card or something. And then there's the other argument of it does look a lot nicer, I think, when it's custom to every episode. But then I don't know. So what's your thoughts on like the thumbnail?
Yeah, it's another great question because, again, from the world I come from, they don't care about brand. They don't care about the visual stuff, which I think is a little bit of a detriment. But they have a point, which is you just do what works, whether it looks different than the thing before. The audience doesn't matter. They don't care about that too much. So if you can find the sweet spot of like a beautiful looking thumbnail template that gets the click and displays the positioning and the idea, great. You're now getting high clicks and you're kind of building this little brand element that people can trust over time. But it goes back to your original question, which is like, if you have this pretty designed thumbnail and you have a template and you use it over and over and over, but the content behind it isn't remarkable, then you're not building the brand that you think you are, because it doesn't exist in the thumbnail. It exists what comes after that. So if that's remarkable, then your thumbnail templates are going to carry weight and brand to it. If your video is not remarkable, no one's going to care about the template that you found that looks nice.
What makes like a video like remarkable versus like not remarkable?
It's an ongoing conversation, right? I look at remarkable as different. So again, from one of the core principles and tenets that I follow is better is not better, different is better. Again, that goes to positioning. Positioning is how to stand out. Positioning cannot exist in a vacuum. It can only exist if you position against something. So much of remarkability is kind of like, well, what do people find remarkable already? What's already out in the market today? And can you put on your x-ray vision goggles and kind of find this invisible gap, this invisible area of, ooh, I like no one's talking about it, but if content just existed around this thing, attacking it from this angle, that's going to create remarkability, right? And so it goes back to very principle based thinking of back to supply and demand. You can have a remarkable video if you just talk about something where there's little supply. And so you're not even really focusing on the quality of your video per se. You're just focusing on the context around it, which is you're just taking the same quality and your same expertise into like a different realm. What I'm doing is an example. I hang out with the marketers I know hang out on Facebook. They're some of the smartest people I know, much smarter than me. So if I go post content about marketing, they could comment and just correct me on shit, because they know better than I do. When I take this marketing, the same stuff into the creator world, it sounds amazing. It sounds new. It sounds different. Therefore, it is remarkable over here, but not remarkable over there. And all I did was change the context. Like that's, in my opinion, is one of the ways to win on YouTube. Is don't You can try to be better, but that's a hard game. And like people don't understand how to think about better. Train your brain to think about different and just place yourself in a different context or a different position so it stands out, even if you're not actually doing anything differently. So that's how I think about remarkability.
When you think of like positioning too, like who, like Danco, for example, like if we use him as an example, or even like Talon, like Danco seems to have like, he talks about business, one person businesses, he talks about spirituality. It seems like he's just talking about a lot of things that he's passionate about, like creativity, focus, and then sort of, and I've heard this like argument too, like you just are your own niche, right? And like you talk about what you like. How, I guess, how relevant is that, or is that something that only certain people can get away with, I guess?
The way I look at it is, again, from the marketing lens, supply and demand. There are certain things that people want and care about and other things that they don't. So you are the niche. I'm not against it or for it. Because if you really break it down, it's just, well, it's like, what are the things you're interested in? And right, like just be the intersection of that thing. That works if the things you're interested in are naturally and inherently interesting to other people, right? So, like for example, for me, I like to travel. I live in Mexico City, Latin America. That's kind of an inherently interesting subject. So if I write about it, it's going to sound like you are the niche works as a strategy, but all it really is I'm just writing about something people like, you know? Whereas if I'm someone who likes to grow, daffodils in my backyard, if that's my thing, no one's really going to care about that. And they're going to be like, well, you are the niche doesn't work then. Well, it's because the thing I'm trying to write about, no one really cares. The beautiful part is if you just get good at storytelling and creating, you can make someone care about anything. So, to me, it's just whatever you like, you can be the niche. There's uniqueness and creativity in that. I understand the power of it, but you need to get people to care about what it is that you do. You need to get people to care about your niche.
Your thing sounds a little bit more complicated too, because there's a business that's backed into this whole YouTube channel. It sounds like on most of these cases. So how are your clients selling? Are they selling on, I've heard stories of people saying, I sell, like there was a creator I was watching today, and he was saying, I sell on every video, but it's 80% value, 20% selling or something like that. And then I've heard other people say, I don't sell at all, like on video, or maybe like one video a week I sell if I do 5 a week type of thing. So I guess it kind of depends, and it's probably different for YouTube because like it's probably not most people that are creating YouTube content, unless it's a short, it's probably maybe like one video a week. So it's something, because it's a lot more production. How do you bring people to the offer without annoying the shit out of them, and with within the strategy, and like how often do you sell and persuade, and like what does that look like? Is that like a testimonial, or is that
Got
you
it.
like educating, or like how do you look at that?
hopefully I have a beautiful answer for this, and I'll give a few actually. So let me give credit to some of the people I learned from. There's a guy named Adam Linkenauger who's entirely inspired kind of the journey I'm going on now and what I'm building. What he talks about is you just take the top 3 to 5 like problems or pain points that people deal with, and those become your content buckets. So 80% of the content you post on YouTube should be related to these 3 to 5 pain points, right? And so you're making a video around that specific pain point, and you can either ideally have a lead magnet in a low ticket digital product to match. So if you have 3 core buckets, you should have 3 free lead magnets. So whichever video you post, you are also promoting that free lead magnet. And then after someone opts in for that, you have a paid version, a low ticket course that comes right after that, which is how you can monetize. So you're not only monetizing, since you're doing it based on pain points, someone who watches your video, their intent is to solve the problem, hence why they're clicking on the video in the first place. Intent is very important. And you are not just selling them a product, but you're giving them a lead magnet, which is free. So it's like you're giving them double the value. So it doesn't feel like selling. And then once you actually do sell something, it's off the YouTube platform. So they don't even associate your YouTube videos or your brand with selling in the first place because you took them off the platform and then you're doing your selling. So that's one way to do it, which I think is brilliant because you're also segmenting your audience and your buyers. So you know, okay, if I have a list of this many people, half of them are this pain point, 25% are this one, 25% are this one. And then you can start to launch products to them and just see which one converts higher, which one buys this one or that one. Again, I got that from Adam. A tangible example is one of my past clients, Charisma on Command, right? So you can go look at their videos. What they did and what they started testing and worked really well is they just do pure value in the front. And then, like, the last 60 seconds of their video is a hardcore pitch for their product. And it's just a smooth transition because they give you the value and they say, if you want to learn more, if you want to go deeper, then check out, boom, Charisma University. And what they found is just having testimonials is what generated the most revenue at the end. And so the whole point is you're doing it at the end of the video. The retention is already very low by that time, but the people who are there mean they love your video. Like those are your hottest people. And so you're giving them a sales pitch, and the retention drops dramatically then, but it's already at the end of the video where it's almost insignificant. It's not like you're doing it at the beginning where retention drops a ton. You're doing the value first. Anyone who stuck around, boom, flip into hardcore sales pitch. That works very well.
What's your thoughts too, like on just like someone having like almost like a trailer in the beginning where the editor kind of teases out like a specific moment and then like makes it more like almost just like a TV show? I mean, it seems like a little bit harder to pull off, and like for the, I mean, anything's doable, I guess, but in general, like, do you feel like how do people? What's a good way to hook people in these videos?
Yeah, I see that work really well with like interviews, right? And I've been hooked like terribly when someone does it, properly. And I've also like fallen. It's crazy. I've fallen in love with brands that I've don't even know because they did that trailer part so good. I was like, man, I know I'm about to have a great time because they just kind of hooked me with all the best moments of the thing. They didn't give it away. The energy felt great. It was, felt like watching a telenovela, right? And so it works. But again, you just have to use the right moments. If you use the wrong moments, it's not going to work. If you use the right moments, it's going to work very, very well. That being different than like a bumper. You know what I mean? Like a bumper is like when your logo pops up and it's all animated and there's like a song and your picture is here. And, it's like Jeremy Thone, Social Dream Machine. That is typically a bad idea. But what's funny is there are, the lady I partnered with for this channel, her name is Marnie. All I did is she has a channel in English. She has those type of bumpers at the beginning of all her videos, and she's has over 1 million subscribers, tons of views per video. So like, again, that's a tactical thing that I would not recommend. But if you have everything else right, like the tactic, you can break all the rules with the tactics, you'll still grow very fast.
What about like the description? Like, do you put just links to the product, or you do actually put? Because I've seen some creators that all they're putting is their product links there, or their either affiliate links or course links or whatever, and then they completely don't even talk about the episode at all, or like whatever the thing is about. So thoughts on that?
If monetization is the goal, which is a great one, then you just make sure the product link shows up in the first like sentence of the description, because then it shows up when they're watching the video without having to click the description, right? And it's good to have a sentence that pre-sells the link. So, if you want whatever, click here, boom. That sentence is important, and I think it's ideal to put social proof in that sentence, right? If you want to get this benefit like 10,000 other students have, then go check out product name and then link, right? Everything is just about pre-framing what the next step is. I would do that. And then, because I do enjoy brand, something that's very hard to measure, but I think it makes a difference, is I do like to put an actual description of the video and to write it well and put the time codes and to put the positioning of the company down at the bottom, things like this.
Do you think it's possible for, I guess, people that are new creators to make a living, like, or at least a partial living off of YouTube in 2024?
Yeah, 100%, and you got to understand, I am biased because this is my business, but I could also remove that bias and just give a list of logical reasons for why it's possible and why I think it's one of the best platforms. It's one of the best platforms because it's also a hard platform, right? So the two kind of go hand in hand. Today there was recently some type of algorithm update or announcement where YouTube is pushing smaller creators into the algorithm. And so I uniquely started seeing this because when you go to your YouTube homepage, it shows you 4 videos at the top, 4 videos here, just a bunch of videos, maybe some you're subscribed to, maybe new ones. This is like the discovery feature. And I'm starting to see a lot of videos in that top 8 where it's got like 100 views. You click on the account, the person's got like 1,000 subscribers. And everyone I know is starting to experience the same thing. So today more than ever, they're kind of leveling the playing field. And if you take those strategies we talked about at the beginning, which I know were very principle based and not really action oriented, but if you find that positioning for you, you find the supply demand curve at the height and you can tackle it right in the middle at the weak point, you got a decent thumbnail, people will click that thumbnail and you'll get a ton of views. So there's a lot of examples out there of people who you get one video to hit, one outlier video, you can pretty much launch your whole YouTube business. It's what happened with us. Within 60 days, we had one video, boom, it went viral. That caused a chain reaction of virality across 4 more videos. Made a ton of money in that time without doing anything, and we had a business, So I think it's a great platform for anybody.
Yeah, and last question for you. Just tell us a little bit about the agency, the YouTube agency, and like what you're looking for and who you're looking at working with and that good stuff.
I started a company called 1 Billion Media. Our goal is to help our clients, our partners, and our channels get billions of views on YouTube. We believe in something called a hero brand, which are the educators, the creators, the entrepreneurs who have a message to share or a product that they think can uplift humanity, because we're kind of in a fight against what we call these villain brands, these kind of influencers or brands who kind of degrade society and they don't teach the best principles. So we're kind of fighting against that. And we want to do that through the platform of YouTube and just helping the right people spread the right message. And so we are a done-for-you agency, and we focus on YouTube growth and scaling your marketing. We are the sweet spot of the two, where we can build the bridge from your thumbnail and your video all the way down to your marketing funnel that sells your offers and upsells. And we manage that whole process on a done-for-you level.
Where do people reach out if they want to learn more?
Could reach out to me on X at the Sam Ocean. I got a website at the same domain. I'm starting to produce content on all the platforms very soon here. So just anywhere, I always promise to DM back. It's one of the things I take great pride in, because I remember when I was just starting off, and the people who spent the time on me and took the time to reply to my messages made me feel over the moon. So I'd love nothing more than to do that for other people.
It's super important. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time.
And I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on. Great questions.
Yeah. Thanks so much.